LEIGHTDICKEY.com. Do you have an event or occasion coming up that could use a special touch? Perhaps a wedding, a production, a show? Good! Then you're in luck. Haley Moores is who you're looking for. Haley is a makeup artist in the Toronto, Ontario area, specializing in bridal, glam, natural, and special effects. She's incredibly talented, professional, easy to work with, and has a personality that is second to none. To book Haley Moores today, follow her on Instagram at mad_milash, that's MAD_MILASH, or email her at madmilash, again that's MADMILASH @gmail.com. Book Haley Moores today, you'll be glad you did. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. Do you find yourself reminiscing on what life was like when you were younger? Do your favorite songs, movies, and TV shows instantly take you back to a simpler time? Great! Then you're in the right place. Join me, Leigh Dickey, on my new web series and podcast, Yo Nostalgia, where I cover everything you grew up with. From films and toys to fads and trends, Yo Nostalgia has it all. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever podcasts are available. Follow along on social media at Yo Nostalgia Show to keep up on this time-traveling trip. Yo Nostalgia, breathing new life into your memories, available everywhere now. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. What's going on, everybody? Leigh Dickey here. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Today, this week, I want to tell you about a Vince McMahon philosophy in that nothing can go wrong if it's live. And I'll tell you why I love that philosophy and why I look at that as sort of the holy grail in terms of production philosophies with my own radio, television, media, and performance background, and how I apply that to producing this podcast and have applied it to producing television, radio, and other media-related and entertainment projects. But before we get into that, before we get into the real main event and why you are here, that Vince McMahon philosophy and that nothing can go wrong if it's live, I want to tell you where you can find the Beats and Speaks podcast. Of course, new episodes of the Beats and Speaks podcast are released every single Friday on my official website, LEIGHTDICKEY.com, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever you get your podcasts. Please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. Find us on YouTube as well under Leigh Dickey TV. Rate us 5 stars and leave us reviews if you would, please, and thank you. If you have comments, questions, or want to be a guest on a future episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast, please do email me at LeighTDickey@gmail.com. Follow along on social media as well at LeighTDickey. Now that all the housekeeping is out of the way, let's get into the main event, into why you are really here, into my best explanation as to why the best philosophy is Vince McMahon's nothing can go wrong if it's live, right here, right now, on a new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Alright, so yes, the Vince McMahon philosophy of nothing can go wrong if it's live, and why I love it and why I tend to agree with it most times, and well, most of the time. Barring anything catastrophic, that is a correct philosophy. That is a gold medal winning philosophy. I've taken my own production background when it comes to radio, television, media, performance, that sort of thing. If nothing catastrophic happens, just learn to roll with things. If, say, somebody trips over the bottom rope getting into the ring, you know what? Meant to do that. And I first heard Vince McMahon say that on, if my memory serves me correctly, it was the Monday Night Wars DVD that chronicles the sort of competition between WCW and its Monday Nitro program and the WWF, WWE now, and Monday Night Raw. So if Vince McMahon has that philosophy, nothing can go wrong if it's live, barring anything catastrophic, that is the right way to look at things. And, you know, with my own background in media, production, radio, television, that sort of thing, I agree with that because the majority of the environments that I worked in were live to air environments. They were just like, okay, we have an hour and a half to set everything up, or even more, and we're going live to air, which means as it's happening, the viewer is seeing it. And as a production pro and as a broadcasting pro, you don't want to make any mistakes, right? Because they're going out live to air. People are seeing them live as they happen. And of course, you want to run this tight ship. You want to have a tight, cohesive unit so everything goes according to plan. But of course, things happen that don't always go to plan. And if you can learn to roll with things, like say somebody flubs a line, provided it's, you don't drop any sort of 4 or 5 letter words you shouldn't say on TV during the day, then I think you'll be all right. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, say you're flubbing a line and you're searching for words. If you've done this a number of times, if you've done this enough, then you'll get through it. It's repetition. It's getting the reps. It's like taking a bump in the ring, right? You build up a callus. I'm assuming. I've never taken a bump, but I equate it to that. Production, like doing anything for for a length of time, and sort of building up a tolerance to it, or building up sort of a formula to it, takes time. And if you do anything enough, you'll become comfortable at it. You'll become a pro at it, right? You put in the work, you put in the time, you put in the hours, you'll become a pro. You'll start to understand like what pieces go where and what has to happen for the final product to come together. And that's why I love working in the environments that I do and that I did, because the majority of the productions or shows that I worked on, whether they be radio or television or any other form of media or performance, they were live. They were as things are happening, you are seeing them. So if we go up on camera, you're seeing them live as it happens. That's happening in the studio right now, or that's happening on stage. You know what I mean? And I loved the live to air environment. I've been on, tape productions and live to tape. I don't necessarily like the taped environment. Like, I understand that this podcast is recorded and then I edit a little bit to put out the final product for you, but I produce and perform and record these shows one take. And I'll give you a bit of behind the scenes on the production flow. I record the lead in or the sting one take, and then the episodes are one take. If there's solo shows, I record them one take. Interviews, same thing. I don't like to flub. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have flubbed before. I've had to restart interviews. I've had to re-record interviews because things have happened, but that's just the way things are. I mean, I've had guests on my show where we've had to record their interviews about 2 or 3 times, and I don't necessarily like to do that, but I mean, if it has to happen, it has to happen. And, I'm just thankful that a lot of the guests that I've had in the past and that we'll have in the future are, just they're understanding, they're total pros when it comes to that sort of thing, and they understand how sometimes technology doesn't want to play along and it decides it wants to poke at you a little bit and just have a little fun at your expense, which is fine. But I prefer the live to air environments, and I produce this show as if it's live to air because I like the one take environment. It's just, let's have it. It's as it happens. You don't have to layer anything else in later, and you can just you knock it out quickly, you can knock it out efficiently, and it's fine. And barring anything catastrophic where you have to edit a bunch, if anything happens, if anything sort of goes wrong per se, if it's nothing you can't get over, you'll be okay. As long as you can get over the hump, you'll be all right. As long as you take it as it comes and just deal with it instead of like, do it again, do it again, do it again. There is no do it again, do it again, do it again if you're live to air and people are seeing things as they're happening live in studio or wherever your production or show happens to be emanating from. It's just, nothing can go wrong if it's live. If something happens, and as I've said a couple times, barring anything catastrophic, just roll with it. Okay, you just have to, okay, this is what happens, this is what we do, this is how things go, I'll deal with it, and then we'll just, can you just roll with things? It's not a big deal. Like, I've been on productions where people have flubbed lines, but you know what? That's just the way of things. No matter how many times you rehearse it, if it comes out perfect in rehearsal, or if you say it back to yourself over and over again, you could still flub it. You don't want to, but it could still happen. I mean, I've flubbed lines in auditions before. I've flubbed lines in like live on air. It's just that happens. I've skipped total products being live on air. Sometimes it happens, and don't get me wrong. I can tell you one story in particular. I was hosting sort of a charity auction a number of years ago in my local neighborhood, actually, and we were live to air on a local television station, and we had a list of products in front of us, and I had accidentally skipped one, and I had one person to my right who is a former city councilor here in the city of Toronto, who we're live to air. It's probably like just a little after 4, maybe like 4:15, 4:30, something like that. We're live to air. I accidentally skipped this product because I just didn't see it. It wasn't the first thing I saw. I skipped the product, and this former counselor just kind of, cocks her head towards me, looks at me, and then just screams, "You skipped one! You skipped one!" I'm like, okay. I mean, instead of sort of losing it live on air, I just kind of went, "Oh, well, I'm sorry." I looked again, went, "Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize," and then you move on. You don't react to somebody who is. If you become reactionary to someone who is panicking, then everything's going to go off the rails. But if you act as though, "Oh, okay, I missed one. I'm sorry. There's this one, and then the one that I had mentioned," and then we move on. If you just look at it calmly and you just take it as it comes, you will be okay. So nothing can go wrong if it's live. Like, if I skip a product and somebody reacts the way that former city councilor did, okay, nothing I can do about it. She reacted the way she reacted, and I can't help that. It's just, that's the way it is, and that's what happened. So I'm gonna deal with it, and I'm gonna move on. That's what happens, and blah blah blah. I mean, we're live to air, and things happen. Mistakes are made at certain points, and you just have to roll with them. I mean, there are certain things that happened afterwards that we had to edit out, because I remember being in certain environments where the promos for the next day's show or that next week of shows, we had to edit things out, or even certain things were said live on the air that we had to edit out for the rerun or the repeat, and that's just what you do. But barring anything totally off the rails and anything that you can't really recover from, you'll be fine. That's just how the live environment works. I've always loved the live environment because in the taped environment, people, at least on most of the crews that I worked on, people seemed a bit too relaxed about things, and like, "Oh, it's just taped, it's no big deal," and they're a little more relaxed. I mean, in my experience, you never want to be all that relaxed in a broadcast environment or a live environment of any sort, whether it's a concert or a performance or radio or television. Like, don't get me wrong, I've had notes in a broadcast studio, like in a radio studio, when I was live on the air. I had notes just fall off the table. I'm fumbling around for the script while my mic is on, by the way, which is not how you want to handle things. But I mean, at that point, I was a rookie in terms of like broadcasting. I think that was within my first year and a half in the business, and it was just kind of like, okay, well, I didn't, I was young, and you're gonna make the mistakes. It's better you make the mistakes while you're young than be a seasoned sort of veteran and be a total pro, and then just keep making the mistakes and having them snowball. But as I said, nothing can go wrong if it's live. That's total Vince McMahon philosophy, and I totally agree with it. Stand by it. Barring anything catastrophic, you can recover from anything so long as you don't panic, you stay calm, and you handle it like a total pro. Don't react to things. Just remember what your job is. Remember what the outcome has to be. Remember what you have to do to get the product that you want and that you want to put your name on and put your stamp on. And it'll be perfect, I promise. But being, the guy that's had a radio, television, and media background, it's just my experience with it. Like, when it comes to the taped environment, people seem to be a bit too relaxed, in my opinion. Whereas if they made mistakes, right, they're like, okay, if you make a mistake, fine. I mean, I've made mistakes where I've missed cues and we've had to go back and start again. But that was just me to a certain extent, not paying attention and just zoning out a little bit. But you learn from them. You learn from your mistakes. You learn from the things that you're not supposed to do, you hope, and then you correct them for future dates or for the next time you're behind the wheel, per se. And that's just how I look at things. It's always a learning process. You got to learn from your mistakes. You got to make the mistakes to learn from them, and that'll just make you better at whatever it is that you plan on doing, whether it's production, whether it's media, or anything else. So I hope you guys enjoyed that look into my own experiences with Nothing Can Go Wrong If It's Live and what I think of the Vince McMahon philosophy. Nothing can go wrong if it's live. And if my memory serves me correctly, that's from the Monday Night Wars DVD, which they put out in 2004, which chronicles the competition between WCW Monday Nitro and WWF WWE Monday Night Raw. Of course, I will syndicate this episode on my wrestling podcast, Pinfall, a pro wrestling podcast. Be on the lookout for that. So please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Find us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, my official website, LEIGHTDICKEY.com, and your favorite podcast app and player of choice. Rate us 5 stars and leave us reviews if you would, please, and thank you. If you want to be a guest, have comments, questions, email them to LeighTDickey@gmail.com. Follow along on social media at LeighTDickey. But I've been Leigh Dickey. This has been another episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Remember to find us on YouTube as well under Leigh Dickey TV. And I will see you all and talk to you all next Friday for a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. I'm Leigh Dickey, and I am signing off. Peace. LeighTDickey.com